show you. This back here is a black gum tree. Nyssa sylvatica is the Latin name, but black gum, black tupelo, swamp tupelo, swamp gum. It's called all sorts of things, but Nyssa sylvatica is really all you need to know. This tree had a real bad day like 15 or 20 years ago. I think something smashed into it, or I don't know what, but a lot of the wood was exposed to the elements. And if you're a tree and your bark gets knocked off or cut off and you have wood exposed, you're automatically going to get wood decay fungi starting to work on the wood. And so what happens is the tree tries to close over the wound and get on with its life, but in this case it looks like a canker disease, a fungus, probably Nectaria canker, got into the wound and kept it from closing. And so it stayed open, and the wood that was exposed got thoroughly rotted, and then it got infested with insects, and then woodpeckers dug for the insects and removed all of the wood. And that's why you have cavities. It's a process. First you have fungus, then you have insects, and then you have things digging around for the insects. And by the way, this doesn't just go in, although it goes way in. This is like a 16-inch diameter tree, and that's almost the entire diameter. So this is a living pipe, folks. There's only a couple inches of wood that's holding the tree up, but it's pretty okay. And by the way, it goes all the way up there and it rattles around up there, so you can see how far up that decay goes. There's a cavity that goes all the way, and the reason I didn't reach in with my bare hand is that you never know what's in the cavity. There's all sorts of things that could bite, scratch, or sting you that could be in there, so I never just reach in. But yeah, this is habitat right here. Squirrels, opossums, raccoons, all sorts of other vertebrates, birds. They love tree cavities. And actually, if you look up, you can see some good cavities. There's a snag here. This is a tulip tree that broke off in a tornado a few years ago. And towards the top, you can see there are multiple large holes drilled in that tree. At least one of those is probably the nest cavity of a pileated woodpecker, which they're huge. Imagine a crow with like a dagger on its face. That is what they are, and they will just trash trees. I've seen them absolutely destroy stumps in like 2 days. It looks like somebody came with a stump grinder and just leveled it. They are really industrious birds. So they would have had no problem drilling into there to make a nice deluxe apartment in the sky. And by the way, that tree's still alive. It's got one branch with, maybe 1,000 leaves on it, compared to, you see all that sky up there? Mm-hmm. That's where this tulip tree used to be. So the tulip tree broke off, and now you've got a light gap down here, and that's why we have sun here. And by the way, if we didn't mow, I bet you a pioneer species would be sprouting in here somewhere. So, yeah, it's healthy, it's alive. And by the way, you notice it doesn't go all the way up. It's not a canopy tree, which means it's not getting the full force of the wind in any season. In the winter, when there are no leaves, the wind just moves right through the forest, but because this one is lower down, it's not getting as much force as it probably would if it was a full-size tree. And when it's in leaf, if it's full-size, it'll get buffeted around enough that, well, let's put it this way. If this tree was by itself, or if it was 30 feet taller, it would probably be snapped off and laying in some direction here. And I would be talking to you guys about the hollow log that makes great habitat, and not the living tree that's also hollow that is good habitat. Good question though. Yeah, just because it's hollow doesn't mean it's dead. There's a lot of trees that are very alive and are structural nightmares. They could fail at any minute. And there are other trees that have been dead for over 100 years and they're perfectly stable because they're straight up and down and they're in the middle of the forest and nothing's pushing on them. So that's an important thing to remember. Hollow does not mean dead, but it also does not mean super duper safe. Trees don't want to be hollow. They would prefer to be solid if a tree could be said to want anything. Any questions?
What are the other climax trees?
Other climax trees in this neighborhood would be most of the white oaks, most of the trees in the white oak group. So white oak, bur oak, swamp white oak in some places. American beech is a main one. There's also a few different species of hickory. Black gum can be a climax species. Wild cherry can be a climax species. They can all get up to the canopy. Sugar maple is another good one. Depending on the pH of the soil and the drainage, sugar maple can be a major component of the forests around here.